Alright, we're live. Alright, so what's up everybody? I'm here with my granddad, Frank Boone, and we're going to talk about the old days. So, I want to know date of birth and year first.
October 8, 1926.
1926. And his 90th birthday is coming up soon.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So, a lot of people always talk about how we're generations of weightlifters. So, Papa, talk about your father lifting weights and some of the first memories just the kind of stuff he used to do when you were a kid.
Well, when he was a physical fitness lift, and he was a wrestler, and he used the old round barbells, you know, them round ones.
The round, yeah, the globe barbells.
Old time, and he was physically strong for a small man.
Yep.
And he did things that I've seen him when I was a kid, about 11 years old, at a circus. Went in and pinned a guy that weighed 240.
And he weighed what?
140. So the guy said that he had put slippery stuff on him and he couldn't hold on to him.
Yeah.
See? So they had a rematch in the local theater. They put a gym in the local theater and the place was packed. And
yeah.
I was only about 9 or 10 years old, and I was up in a balcony. I couldn't even find a seat. And he took him on and he pinned him again.
So they had a wrestling match in our town here in Amsterdam, right at the movie theater.
Yeah, in the movie theater, yeah. And the place was packed, I'll tell you.
And I remember you telling me he was already trying to teach you to lift weights at what, 9 or 10 years old, right?
Yeah, he when I was even 8 years old, he had a mat up in one of the rooms upstairs, and he was flipping me around, and my mother says, "You're going to hurt that boy." But he did things in town that I never seen anybody else do. Like, he walked across one of the buildings, walked all the way across on his hands.
The pitch of the roof, right? Isn't that what you said?
On the top of the roof of a big building. And
that's awesome.
He was
really a stud, huh?
yeah, he was a real.
Talk about, you said he could stand on a table on his hands.
Oh, he'd do a handstand on a table and jump off and on his hands on the floor and run across the floor on his hands.
And you guys that at old school, I still have part of his barbell. That's our chalk bowl.
Yeah.
So I've got part of that globe, and that's what we put our chalk in, which is pretty awesome. What do you remember about just the way, like, his work ethic, his lifting? Well, like, was he always working or training, or what do you remember?
Well, he worked in a coal mine, and them guys in them coal mines, they worked like
crazy,
whatever, you know. And but he was always doing some kind of a dynamic tension on his arms and legs. And I remember one time he was wrestling a guy, and his legs were so strong, he put a scissor grip on that guy, and he made that guy puke.
And we're talking, this is like in the 30s, right? 1930s.
Yeah.
I love it.
It was,
I love it. What, so now we'll fast forward a little bit. You told me a story a little while ago about how when you were coming up, you worked on the farm for $1 a day.
Oh yeah, that was a lot of money.
Yeah.
And we worked all day hoeing corn or cleaning gardens or whatever for the farmer, hays and stuff, and loading hay, and for $1 a day and a meal.
Well, and also, I guess even backtrack a little bit. After your dad passed away in the coal mine explosion, you were the man of the house at age 10 or 10 years old.
9 years old.
9 years old. So that just becomes what it is, right?
It was a catastrophe.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for the neighbors helping out, my sister and I, my mother would have starved.
Yeah, and that's being real. That's what happened.
Yeah, being real. And if I went out hunting when I was 10, 11, if I'd shoot a rabbit, that was a delicacy.
People can't even imagine this at this point. But that's part of why we're talking, because that's like what you were really up against.
Yeah.
And there was no other, like, you had to go hunt, so you had the food.
Well, there was a store down there that had sale bills, and I would, after school, they give me a big stack of store bills, and I walked all over town and put it by the door, and I got a quarter.
Yeah. That's crazy.
That was my pay a quarter.
And when you were working for $1 a day at the farm, were you giving that back to your mom, or
Yeah.
was you? So that was you were contributing.
Well, when I was 16 years old, of course, a lot of guys going to the service. They were short on guys, and we got me and a few guys got a job working on the railroad, cleaning right away.
Gotcha.
And I think we made, not sure, $7 and something a day. So when I got the money, I turned it home. I just go home and put it right on the table.
Yeah.
My mother gave me $5.
Yeah, that's cool. So talk about you and a couple of your buddies went down to sign up because you knew you were going to get drafted, right?
No, well, that was a good start.
Yeah.
We graduated.
Graduate high school.
Yeah, and we went to Steubenville to join the Navy.
Yep.
And so we took the examination, and all three of them guys had something the matter with them. And they said to me, he said, "You're the only one that passed." Excuse me.
And this is for World War II, everybody.
And anyhow, the guy said, "Oh, you're Mr. Golden Opportunity." He says, "If you take us home and get your parents to sign a consent, come down and get sworn in, and you're in the Navy and you won't be called for 6 months."
And you're 17 at this time.
Yeah, 17 years old.
17 years old.
So anyhow, I did that. 6 days later, I got a letter to go to Cleveland, and I was on my way.
On your way.
Well, I could have killed that guy.
Yeah.
Tell the truth. But it was really something. In them days, it was kind of a bad situation.
Yeah.
I don't know how far you want me to project.
No, I think what I want to talk about is when you're in the chow line. Tell me about Frenchie, how he asked you about it. I think I want to keep it light.
Okay.
I think that's fun.
Anyhow.
So you're on the ship and you're the only guy going back for seconds, right?
Yeah. Well, they call him Frenchie, but he's Italian.
Yeah.
And he
was your cook.
And he asked me one day. He said, "Frank, you come from a poor family?" And I said, "Yeah, why, Frenchie?" He said, "Because you come through the chow line twice every day and the food ain't any good."
That just goes to show it was there. You was eating it at 17. There's another story you told me about boxing on the ship. I think that's a really good one.
Oh, well, there was a guy on the ship. We was down in the southern part of the ocean that was pretty secure down in that. And so they had R&R, the gunnery officer, and his crew. They had a boxing match. Mm-hmm. So I'm walking down, they give me orders to check the life rafts to make sure the water was in the water. And this Mr. Young says, "Come on, Frank, put the gloves on with Amador." Well, you take a look at him, he looked just like Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
That's the way he was built, too.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, I had about a 6-inch reach on him. I said, "Well, this dude ain't going to hit me, I'll tell you that."
Yeah.
So I just kept punching him in the nose with the left and go left to right, left to left. And then once I tried to hit him, and he tried to charge me, and he couldn't hit me because I was moving.
You're just boxing on the deck.
On the deck.
Okay.
So then anyhow, he lost control.
Yeah.
He charged me, knocked me down on my back, and jumped on top of me and started beating on my face.
Yeah.
So they broke it up, and I snapped the gloves off and took after him with bare knuckles.
Yeah.
And the officer said, "That's it, boys. Now you will apologize, and you will shake hands." Well, I says, "I'm not going to shake hands with that SOB."
Yeah.
Anyhow, he said, "That's an order."
He swelled you up pretty good too, right?
Yeah. He never hit me. I was hitting him.
Yeah.
His face got real red and everything. So anyhow, he said, "That's an order. And when I give you an order,
you listen.
Whether you don't like it, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
An order's an order." So I shook his hand, and he apologized to me. He says, "Frank, that's the reason I could never be a boxer or a fighter in a ring, because I don't know how to control myself."
Yeah. Crazy.
We was friends after that.
Yeah. That's crazy. And you were at sea for how long, Papa?
Huh?
How long were you at sea total for on the ship? You were at sea for what?
A year and a half.
A year and a half straight. Yeah. That's crazy. One other thing I want to ask you about is you experienced a typhoon at sea. which was one of the most dangerous things. Like, if you could share, like, basically, do you remember the time frame or the day or date of it?
Yes, it was, well, we went into Okinawa April 1st D-Day, and we were, the war ended August the 15th, so the second week there, a typhoon hit, and they ordered the ships. There was 1,363 ships there.
That's
and
amazing.
That was the flotilla that was going to hit Japan.
Yeah.
But anyhow, they told us to go out to sea and ride it out, and good luck. Well, if we'd have been loaded, we'd have broke up and went down.
How big are the waves, Papa? They're just unbelievably high.
Well, somebody asked me that question.
Yeah.
As big as a house top, and I said the wind was about 200 some mile an hour, and somebody said it couldn't have been that bad. I said, well, it broke the bow of the Pittsburgh's bow off, 10 feet of it, and it peeled an aircraft carrier, peeled 22 feet of its deck back like a banana.
Just from the waves, the way they were hitting.
Them waves, the force of the water.
You told me a funny story. You said that you was praying and you said if you made it through, you go to church every Sunday from that day on. You ain't missed one day, have you?
That's right. That's right.
I'll never forget that. That was good.
That's right.
Well, so now let's fast forward a little bit. One other story that I enjoy is that you might not even remember this. We were walking around Christmas time, and the Salvation Army guy, his bucket was jingling. I saw you put some money in it. And then we were walking again another time, and I saw you put some money in it, and I said, you always put money in that every time you go by. And you said, they're the ones that helped me get home from the war.
Well,
whenever you basically...
When we decommissioned the ship, and I had signed up for the year and 6 months.
Yeah.
Well, my 6 months was up, and I decided to stay on the West Coast, and so I got my muster and out pay, $300.
Yeah.
And bluntly, wine, women, and song.
Yeah.
And anyhow, so what happened when I went to get the Portland Rose to catch it to Chicago, I didn't have enough money.
Yeah.
I figured I needed $60. So
to get from there to Chicago, $60. Okay.
So anyhow, I went to the Salvation Army, and I said, I got a request here. I'd like to borrow $60. I'll pay you back so much a month until I pay you off. And he said, what do you need it for? I says, well, I'm trying to buy a ticket to get home on. You know, and they give me $60, and I said, well, who do I send the payments to? And he says,
don't worry
thank you.
And so you've been putting dollars in
So I got on the Portland Rose.
Yeah.
That was the name of the train. And there was no seats. So I put the sea bag in a corner, and I slept on the floor. And
when you got to Chicago,
got to Chicago, and I switched trains, and then I got a seat from Chicago to Pittsburgh.
Gotcha.
And then when I got to Pittsburgh, I went into the CYO to get a sandwich and something and to eat, and they said, well, sailor, your uniform is dirty. So they said, go back in that room, the side room, we got some cots back there, take your ribbons off of your uniform and give us your uniform, and we'll have you back dry cleaned in 2 hours. Really? Yeah. So then, okay, that was great, because I was, it was kind of scrubby. So I went to Steubenville. I finally got to Steubenville from Pittsburgh on the train. So I put the sea bag on my shoulder and I started thumbing.
Yeah. You hitchhiked.
Hitchhike. I got to go home. So I got a ride to Richmond.
Okay.
And the guy said, I'm sorry, sailor, but this is as far as I'm going. I said, well, thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm thumbing, and the cop come by. County Sheriff's cop. And I says, he said, where are you going, sailor? And I says, well, I'm trying to get to Amsterdam. And he said, hop in. So they brought me home.
That's how you got home?
Amsterdam, yeah.
Wow. That's epic, by the way. Yeah, you know what's so awesome? I didn't even know part of that story till just now. That's amazing. That is amazing. All right, let's talk about working out. When did you first actually lift weights as an adult?
When I got out of the service, a guy by the name of Ray Gregson was a weightlifter in town.
Okay.
And him and I started lifting weights up in where I live in the garage on a dirt floor.
Awesome.
And he had some weights, and most of the things we did was clean and jerk, snatch, and military press.
Okay.
And curls.
Yes.
And so anyhow, we did that, and I got to liking it.
Yeah.
Well, my dad, you know, that was his livelihood, but that's what he
loved to do. Yeah.
And so I.
How long did you guys train together, you and this guy?
Well, until I moved.
Okay.
And he moved to Florida.
Oh, okay.
And so I continued. I picked up a few weights of my own, and I would do it. Then when I built the house on the hill, I bought a bench and some weights and stuff like that. And I remember I was military pressing, and on the ninth time I couldn't get it on the
rack.
the rack. So I locked my arms and I yelled for my wife. I said, "Oh, come down and help me." She said, "I'm on the phone."
I love it.
So she finally come down, and I didn't want to just bust the concrete and hurt myself. And then I eased it off, and that's how.
I'm on the phone.
That was funny.
So I don't know if you remember this, but I remember plain as day when you said something about, we moved in with you guys for a little while, and you said something about me lifting weights with you, and you said it'll make you feel more confident. You'll be better at sports, and you said, and the girls like it too. That's what you said there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember you were obviously working construction, but then you always would come down in the basement after you got home and always lift weights.
Yeah.
Talk about, as you got older, we've talked multiple times that you were probably in the best shape at some point in your life, like around 80 years old.
Yeah.
Talk about how strong you were at 80 years old.
Well, when I was going to the gym up at
Altman Center.
Yeah, up in Carrollton, I joined the gym there, and I was going there 4 and 5 days a week. And they had didn't have too many free weights and stuff, but they had a lot of good machines. And so anyhow, I got my workout going, and so a couple of guys were working out with me one time, and I said, I'm going to try one on the floor.
Yeah.
A pullover.
Yep.
So I put 70 pounds on the bar.
And he's talking about a pullover that's a stiff arm, laying on the ground pullover like
and
this.
Stopping about an inch from your leg, and then bringing it back.
Sure.
And so I started doing that, and some guy, one guy one time jumped in and he said, "That's mind if I jump in on that?"
Yeah.
I said, "No, yeah, but you got to do it."
You've been doing it for like a year before he.
Yeah. So I did max out at 80 pounds.
Sure.
And then I told the guy, says, "Now you got to keep your arms stiff. You cannot bend your arms."
So he's saying you lay flat like this. You
Yeah.
bring the bar all the way down and
Stiff.
stop it here.
Yeah.
And then pull it right back up. So it's different than a dumbbell pullover. But go ahead. This is the guys in Steubenville too, right? The ones you're talking about now.
So
Go ahead.
So this guy he was built like Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. We'll just play.
And he was flexing his muscles and stuff.
Sure.
And so I only had 70 pounds on, and he said, "Mind if I jump in on that?" And I said, "Yeah, but you got to do it to perfection, or you don't get no good out of it."
Yeah.
And I showed him how to do it. He took a big pull, and his feet come all the way up off the floor. He couldn't even get it off the ground or the floor.
He had no clue how long you'd been working on it.
Yeah, I worked on that for years,
and you were teaching guys when you went to Carrollton still that exercise, even when you were 80. 'Cause that was when you were a little young.
Oh, when I was 75, 80 years old, I lived up Carrollton 7.5 years, and I made my mind up on one exercise, the pull down, pull over.
Lat pull down.
Drag pull down.
Yeah.
And anyhow, when I turned 80, I wanted to do 180 pounds 10 times.
All right, let me break that down. His goal when he was 80 was to do a lat pull down 10 reps with 180. Just want to clarify that.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
And you were able to do it.
Yeah.
And the guys around you said.
That one guy said, "Boy, that's pretty impressive."
And
I was 80 years old.
It's funny is because I went up to the Ultimate Center is like a rehab center that has a gym. I went up there and we were in the locker room getting ready, and I looked over and he gave me a flex and he had his upper abs in, all his biceps and his shoulders at 80 years old, guys. Now we've got this kind of the table set of you were in that type of shape.
Yeah.
Talk about you've had 2 different infections that you went into the hospital with, and the one was really serious. Like I was nervous that time.
Yeah.
And what did the doctor tell you? Because first of all, he's 6'1", 218 to 220 pounds as he sits here right now today.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, the doctor, he didn't tell me this till after I pulled through it. I had a temperature of 103, 104 for 4 or 5 days. He said if I went 6 days, I'd have died. And then he said, the only reason you're here today is because you was physically fit.
Because your immune system was stronger.
He said you were fighting it.
Yep.
You was fighting the disease. Because I had blood infection. And he said, if you wasn't in good shape, I'm telling you, you'd have died.
And here's the difference is, I really believe muscle mass and immune system so interlocked.
Oh, it is.
Because you get frail as you get older is what it is.
That's
and
right.
So what happens is, if you go in the hospital at 220 and you lose 30 pounds, that's different if you go in the hospital at 180 and lose 30 pounds. And I think that was the difference maker, Papa.
Oh, yeah.
I think it made a huge difference.
Well, if you want to lose weight, go to the hospital because the food stinks.
Yeah. Well, and once you pulled through that second one, you told me, you said, well, that guy upstairs, he can cross somebody's, he can skip over, keep skipping over my name. I'm not ready yet. I keep fighting.
I bounced the Grim Reaper. I missed him twice now.
But it's because you took care of yourself, and because you've had a huge appetite your whole life. We went to Ponderosa a month ago, and I think you went up 5 times. We got a steak. Then he had his salad round, and then he had his fruit round.
Yeah.
And then he had his dessert round. It was pretty impressive, I gotta say.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do we want to talk about last here? All right, couple things. The golden rule. That's one thing I tell people all the time. What's the golden rule?
Just remember, the guys that make all the gold, the guys that got the gold make all the rules.
So, Papa tells me when I started business, he said, just remember this, the guy that got all the gold makes all the rules. And so the goal is you got to get the gold.
That's right. You got to get the gold, yeah.
So if you have, you've seen everything from post-Great Depression, essentially, to now we're watching the Masters on a 55-inch flat screen TV.
Right.
It's your generation, the World War II generation, truly is the greatest generation. It built our country. What do you think that my viewers, our people could learn about the guys you grew up around, the industries that you like? What would you leave them with, like the work ethic, the patriotism, whatever it is? Like, what do you wish you could get across to some of the younger guys, Papa, if you had to say something?
Well, everybody lives on a computer now.
Yeah.
Or a phone. And they don't take time out to the serious things about keeping their health and their bodies in shape.
Yeah.
If longevity is caused by having a good, strong body.
Yep.
Now, I don't care whether you do any kind of an exercise at all, but do it.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy.
And
a lot of guys just don't want to take the time.
To take care of themselves.
Yeah, to take care of themselves. It's just like an automobile. They take care of the automobile, they'll shine it, and they'll clean it and everything, but they don't take care of their body.
And you only have one body.
And they only got one body.
And you learned 2 major lessons when you got in trouble both times.
That's
and I remember the second time when I was nervous about you, I came down here and I had heard you weren't doing very good, and I came down here and you woke up and you looked over and you said, "Hey, Cory, how you doing?" I said, "Shit, how are you doing? That's why I'm here." And he said, "I think I'm getting better." So, well, Papa, I love you, and it was awesome to hear these stories. So thank you.
Yeah. Okay.